We are going to talk about consistency.
Today is a day that you go with the flow. That's what you said to me.
Yes,
So,
yes.
how does consistency work for you on a day like this?
Okay, so yes, today is the day I go with the flow because normally my life is so scheduled. I have to, to have I have to plan pretty much everything, and it works well because otherwise my life would be very will be chaos, right? And even sometimes, despite I try to plan, it's chaos. So today, Fridays are my favorite days. Fridays and Mondays are my favorite days. Mondays because it's the start, a new start, and it's always exciting. And Fridays because it's kind of like the day I take it easy. I stay with the kids in the park. I let them play as long as they want, and I just, go with the flow. So you said, let's do the live. And I say, okay, yes, no problem. I'm here for you. So how consist, yeah. And I don't know how it works for you, but every time that, since I am in Movement Makers, which is going to be a little bit longer than a month, whenever there is, one of these topics is proposed, I do a little bit of research. I check a little bit the person that I'm going to talk to. I want to know, what excites the person, the interest, and I like to do a little bit of research. With consistency, it has not been kind of like I was not as excited as I was with courage or with discipline. Okay.
Hmm.
The way I see consistency has always been like a launching pad for something else.
Hmm.
It's, consistency, it's not good or bad for me. It depends on the context. So normally, if I am talking about consistency in good terms, I would say consistency with between your acts and your values is important because it's if you are not in agreement, if you're not acting in agreement with your values, then you're gonna live in stress and it's gonna cause sadness, and that's something that Tony Robbins talks about, and also Evan. You know, how do you know or why or how can you identify why you are not happy? Most of the time is because you're not living in agreement with your values, you're not consistent with your values, right? Whatever values you have. So that's in that sense, consistency is interesting, is important. Consistency of behavior, for me it's important because I like to be around people who is consistent in the way they relate to me, right? It's very stressing for me when I'm around people who all the time is uh, moody, and I don't really know how to. Uh, they are unpredictable, and I don't know, what's gonna be that day with that person. I don't like that because I invest a lot in my relationships with friends, and when I find that kind of behavior, it causes me to think, okay, did I did something wrong? What's going on? I mean, bad days, we all have it, and that's perfectly fine. And I think I have a high tolerance for people having bad days. I am tolerant, I think. But when there's no consistency in how that person behaves with me, then I start creating this feeling of maybe it's better for me to move away. Okay, so that's something that I really value: consistency in behavior. I want to know that if I'm in a room of 300 people, I will find the eyes of that person, and I can go to that person, and that person will be warm, and that person will be friendly, and I will be safe with that person. So that's when I can really make a connection. I can really, we can remain friends, or in a relationship or whatever. But that's how the positive light for consistency. And now, in regards of consistency of results, for me, as I said, is a launching pad, because sometimes consistency depends on exterior facts. So you can be thrown out of consistency behavior sometimes, and that happens. We are not robots. We are not supposed to produce the exact same consistent result And I think that we should not, because we should either go for something better, or we should realize that that's not for us, and then we're going to stop, producing consistent results. Like, when you are at school, and if you are consistent with your grades, even if they are A+, it's kind of like I feel I'm stuck in this consistency. So especially, for people who's creative, consistency, I find it's difficult because you're always trying to experiment something new, and that will take you out of consistency. So in those terms, consistency is like, depends. I like it when it's a byproduct, or I think consistency is good when it's a byproduct of discipline. Then it's normal to become consistent in some things, but when you are disciplined, you go beyond that consistency. You go towards achieving something bigger. So for me, consistency, it's not something that's not my battle, because I am a constant person, which is different, and I check those both concepts, consistency versus constant. And I rather match, the concept of constant. And then I think that I'm someone constant with my behavior, with my affections, with my activities, with my passions. I tend to be constant. So that's, how would I describe consistency. It's good, depends on the light or the context. I much rather the concept of constancy. Now your turn.
Okay. Well, you've given me a lot to think about. So let's just start with behavior. It was not the first thing you mentioned, but people and consistent behavior. Well, I guess I like it when people are predictable, as in that I know what I can expect from them. Um, but for me, it's more important, can I rely on them? So do they
Yeah.
have my back when I need it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I associate those two concepts, reliancy and yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so someone can be, that I always say that some people are as flexible as a steel door. They're not flexible at all, but you know what you can expect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is that someone I want to be around with? Well, it depends on the kind of relationship, what one means to the other person. But at times it can also mean that certain things never will be done. So when you need someone to catch you, that they won't be able to do it because it's not in their system. So yeah, um, consistency behavior wise, it's an interesting concept. I have to say, it's totally unexpected that one. Um,
How does it look for you? Like, in a real life, in your life, how do you experience that it is something that affects you when people is not consistent with with their relation, with the way they interact with you. I'm not meaning about the length of time. I'm meaning I'm more in the sense that you what you said, when you rely onto someone. There's some people who are very, well, if it doesn't work, if the person is not what I expected or does not act as I expected, I just, walk away, and it doesn't affect you. For me, it does affect me. So I because I get really involved invested in relationships. So and it's because I'm constant, you see. So it does affect me. That's why I kind of like
yeah.
avoiding people around people who's not consistent in their behavior.
Well, first of all, I'm afraid I'm not one of those people who is consistent in their behavior. I can be very high on adrenaline at times.
Mm-hmm.
And for people who are not used to it, I can be a bit much to handle at times when I'm high on adrenaline. So usually I try to manage myself, but I also I also know when it happens. So when I realize that's about to happen, I try to take measures so other people are not bothered by my being high in adrenaline. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm literally when you look at my sign, it's Pisces, and I'm one of those. I'm either there or I'm there. So it's a little bit of both. So I am consistent when it comes to when people can rely on me, people can
Mm-hmm.
depend on me. And I also know that certain situations, I'd rather stay away from certain situations. So I'm good at doing one-on-one with people. I
Mm-hmm.
am, when I know my role, you can rely on me. If you need my help, you can rely on me. But don't make me part of a group just for the sake of being part of a group, like a birthday party or anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just let me go. Don't let me be there. So um, I also have one very annoying habit, and that's I'm always late because I'm still focused on what it is I'm doing. So I'm very consistent with being late. And I know the people who have zero tolerance for it. So when it comes to people with zero tolerance, I'll probably be in time. But that's, it's not because I don't want to be in time. It's literally because um, I'm trying to finish something first. So I put all my energy in something. I've got this hyper focus, and as a result, um, I tend to always be later than expected. And I know it's bad behavior, by the way. And by the time I'm on time, people are like, whoa, there's something wrong with her because she's on time right now. Um, but having said so, I'm also consistent when it comes to telling people, listen, I know I said I was going to be here this time. I'm not going to be able to make it. So let me know what it is you expect from me, what you want me to do. So it's only when I don't alert people that I tell them if I don't show up and I don't tell you in advance that I'm not going to show up or I'm going to be late, then you need to call me because then something is wrong. And people know that. So to a degree, I'm consistent as in my inconsistency, to say it that way.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a type of
but
consistency.
I
It's a
guess
type.
I'm always reliable when it comes to people needing me. You know, when people need me, I'm there, and it
Beautiful.
doesn't matter what time of day it is, I'm there. So it has to be really weird if for me not to be there, then something has to go completely haywire. Um, Too much stress. You know, those are the moments that I'm not reliable, and that's why it's so hard for me to deal with people who are consistent in their behavior but are not reliable as in the moment that I need them. So when things are not normal, basically, they cannot deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if I need you all of a sudden because there's been some incident or something else, I cannot always rely on the other people because they are in their routine, they are stuck in that routine, and they cannot go away from that routine. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they have in mind, and the flexibility in their minds, it's just not there, and I cannot
That's
even blame them because I know it's the way they are.
that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I think that humans we are very and it's Angela there. Humans are humans. Hi, Angela. We humans are very complex. That's why there are no definite answers to anything. Basically, there are concepts that apply to either one situation or another one, and they can change in time. So, and what I see from what you're saying is that, as I think I am, you are constant in certain things, not necessarily consistent. Consistent, I say it more like in terms of results, same results all the time. And seems like I can tell that you are a very creative person, of course, it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to be always consistent. So I think there are some things that are important to be consistent with, as I said that. And consistent is beautiful when it comes as a byproduct of discipline, because it helps you achieve bigger things. And, that's how I see consistency. But when there's nothing behind that consistency, like something bigger, sometimes it's difficult to remain consistent. Like, I'm going to wake up 5 a.m. every morning just because I'm consistent. It doesn't always work like that. You have to have something that pushes you beyond that. And normally for me, that's commitment. Commitment is something that makes me a constant person and allows me to remain consistent with some things, but more than consistent, to remain committed for a long time with things. I'm going to give you an example. For example, dancing. I love dancing. It's a reason by itself, right? So I kept dancing during COVID. I kept dancing, at home right now. I cannot go much outside as much. I kept dancing. Because I am committed to that activity. So I may not be as consistent as I used to go, like every Thursday, because consistency depends sometimes in things outside you. For example, in your case would be you're doing something else maybe, and that throws you out of schedule. So, it's something external. Maybe, I don't know, but from what you're saying. But so I unfortunately, I cannot be as consistent as I used to be attending my classes, probably producing those consistent results as improving my moves. But I am still committed to the activity. So I'm constantly, trying to get better in other ways. So consistency, it's fine depending on what are we talking about, and it's that it depends on what's the final product of that consistency. Are you using that consistency to reach something bigger, or just because you want to be produce a similar result? It's not always as good.
For one thing, I don't think I produce similar results. I mean, it's something I would like to, and I would like to see it improve, but I'm not always capable of influencing those results. What I can do is constantly improve. So work on it consistently to make it better. If other people consider it, well, when it comes to results, let's take, for instance, the whole YouTube thing. That's I think, a very good example. I'm consistent when it comes to posting. I won't say I post every day, but I post nearly every day. And sometimes I do a few posts in one day, and then a couple of days I don't. But normally there are a couple of videos out there per week. I think somewhere around 3 or 4. I am consistent when it comes to improving myself. So I've been working on the thumbnails, I've been working on the titles, yes. I've been working, in a little bit, Evan Carmichael will go live. And for those who do not know that, Evan Carmichael is the YouTube expert, and we are in Movement Makers, and Evan Carmichael is the one who's leading Movement Makers. So he gives us the opportunity to ask stuff. And what I do know is, if I ask him something and I would not follow up on it, that's not respectful. So I'm consistent, as in, he tells me something and then I'll act on it. As for the results, I cannot influence how many people are actually watching my channel on YouTube or watching the video. I can be consistent, as in, I put it out there on Instagram, I tag a number of people, but I cannot influence their schedule, and I cannot influence how many people are going to see it. So I can be consistent in my actions, but I cannot be consistent in the outcome.
That goes beyond you.
I can try my best to do it.
But what you are describing, the way I see it, is discipline. you are disciplined. You are disciplined in doing something that has a strong motivation. And discipline is beautiful. And that's something that I really think it's important to have in your life, discipline. Because discipline is rooted in conviction, and and goes beyond. For me, the concept of consistent, it's more limited. That's the thing. Being consistent with something is what I said. It's a launching pad for something. Either you go better or you go down, because it's not your thing, or it's not depends on you or whatever. But what you are, and I've seen it. I've seen you very disciplined in improving your videos and getting better at it, and always asking questions, and always being there in every moment that you can, in getting better at it. So for me, that's discipline, and that's beautiful, and something I admire, and something that I value in my own life. So it is, I would say that consistency is a byproduct of discipline. Okay, but
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I never would have mentioned my name in the same sentence as being disciplined. Most people around me, especially my friends, wouldn't say, "She disciplined, really?" So that's kind of funny. But though, that a lot of people actually have said that I'm really consistent in doing the stuff that I'm doing. So, and thank you, Angela. Um, as for and this is something which you touched upon for a second. People who are creative have. I learned this a long time ago, like a couple of decades ago. I've had several burnouts, and one of my friends, who's a musician, said we go high and we go low when it comes to emotions. And as a result, sometimes I cannot be consistent, and sometimes the output is I would like it to be better, but I cannot get it to be better. And so the results might vary upon the way I'm feeling at that moment, because I'm a person who can be like really high on energy, and I can be really low on energy. But usually, and that's what I've noticed, when I go live, I can immediately raise my energy. So that's a good thing. As for consistency, and yeah, I guess it's right what you say when it comes to discipline, and especially when it comes to commitment. I've seen others do it. I saw Sandman do it, since September, 3 days, 3 nights in a row, you went live.
So
And I was
committed.
there together with Terry and Bunny and a few others, and Lem and a couple of other people. And we watched it every day, how he did it. And at some point I was like, but I can do this too. Not necessarily 3 days in a row, but I can have my own show, and I can go live as well on YouTube. And I knew that I would like that. And so I think I started saying it for the first time in October or November, and then I said so to Terry, and then I said so to Bunny. And by telling them, it became a commitment, because then they said, yeah, you are capable of doing so. And basically I committed myself to saying, okay, from January on, I'm going to go live on Wednesdays. And then, of course, Michael from Wheels and Warriors asked me to do a live show with him, and then it became 2 times a week. And I don't know, maybe it's going to be 3 times a week. I don't know just yet. But it's something I love to do. I like to do. As for commitment and discipline and consistency, I believe it's important that people know when I'm live. So at what time and at which day. And this is a little bit hard for me. So now I'm kind of distracted, because I'm seeing everywhere all these mentions that Evan is live, that Terry is live, that's what gets me distracted. So that's why I'm not consistent at all. So I usually try to refrain from any um, alerts, because I know I get distracted from alerts. So that's
Yeah.
why I always shut down any alerts.
Mm-hmm.
But getting back to the whole consistency thing. So I don't know if that's discipline. The discipline is I want to be out there regularly. I want to
Mm-hmm.
do it twice a week, and come hell or high water. So
Yeah.
even when I do not feel good, I still go out there. That's
Yes.
the discipline. The
Exactly.
consistency for me is that people know that I'll be there at Wednesdays. That's 7 your time, or 7 Eastern time. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
there. You know,
Yeah.
they know on
Yeah.
Monday, Michael and I are less consistent. Depends on what his day is like most of the time. But in general, I like to be consistent as in dependable. So people know, okay, if I want to see Lady Lexi live, or I want to see Lady Lexi and Michael live, that's when we can expect them to be on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's a little bit of how the way you look at what you are describing to me again. It's discipline, having the discipline to show up regardless. Now,
mhm.
the consistency is producing the same quality of show every day that you show up. Like, are you gonna be the same kind of like here at the top, or maybe something else it's affecting you, and you're not gonna produce the same type of show that you would produce at a different time. So
Oh,
discipline is
my
behind
energy
it.
will vary.
So
My
that's how
energy will vary.
that's how I understand consistency, like in the sense of the quality of results. It's something more qualitative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quantitative. I'm sorry, more quantitative. You can kind of like rate it based on your on logic, or I show up, and this is the type of show that I am able to put like every night. So how consistent a person can be every day showing up for a life, well, I don't know. It depends on the person, on how they manage their emotions, on how. But if you are showing up, even if you are not that producing that same quality, you are being disciplined, and that's something positive, that it's encouraging. And the rest, how the people receives what you are giving, it's up to them. But you're showing up, and you are being disciplined in the sense that you are showing up, and you are uh, doing your lives. You may not be always consistent. That's how I see it. You may not always be consistent because your energy may go up and down, but you are doing it, and that's something that deserves respect. And sometimes we don't
Yeah,
realize about those things.
I learned that at some point, and there are so many people out there actually saying it, like it's better to get out there and just do it. And then you learn from the moments that you're feeling not so good, and you learn from the moments that everything is amazing and
Yeah,
great and wonderful. But at least you're showing up, and the
yeah.
showing up is so important. And yes,
Hmm.
sometimes it's shorter, and sometimes it's longer, and sometimes there are fire alarms in the background for fire trucks.
I love the city. Those are my birds.
But but it's if we don't make the effort, we might as well just quit altogether. And
Hmm.
that's and it's I would love to be able to predict the outcome, but that's not
Hmm.
always the way it works. I can only say this is the amount of effort I put into it, and at least I'm showing up. And yes, you're correct, that's discipline. And like I said, if my friends would hear it around me, they would probably burst out laughing. I mean, me and discipline, those are two strange words together.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I've noticed that when it comes to going live, and it's really something I want, this is my passion, of course. Well, I don't know if that's of course, but this is my passion. My passion is to leave a legacy, to get people to understand that it's okay to speak up, speak out, get a voice. And if I don't go live and I don't share it with them, then they won't see me and they won't know it's okay that they can share their voice.
Yes,
So
yes.
I mean,
You never
one cause with
know. You
yeah.
never know who is listening to you. You never know who you will impact. And you never know at what moment you enter in someone else's life. And it can be a very important moment. So, it can be that moment when that person needed a word like the one you are saying. So that idea, at some point when Evan said that your story is important because all the things that he said about why it's important to tell your story, that really inspired me because being a private person most of my life, I didn't really see the point on doing this, like me talking to someone else live where everyone can listen. Why? Why would everyone or why someone else would be interested in listening? What would be the impact or why, or for me, how this is relevant? But after I've experienced myself that by listening to someone in the right moment has an impact in my life, you know, I can see the value. And I may not be an expert speaker. I may not be an expert storyteller, but I can improve because I know that my experiences may benefit someone else. And that's encouraging. And I'm, willing to go and deeper in these new territories, which I've never done it before. And, as I'm doing it, I'm getting committed to it. And as I'm getting committed to it, I develop that constancy that is important when I do things. I need to understand the reason why it is important for me to do it. I need to know that it's in my best interest to develop a discipline and to develop, and that if it's consistent, that would be great because that's a byproduct of all the other things. So that's kind of like the process, the mental process that I go through when I'm taking up to do something new. And I'll try. And if at the end it doesn't work, if it's not something that it's for me, then it's a problem because sometimes it's difficult for me to let go because I
Well,
tend to
sometimes
be,
you can keep going if it doesn't work and then say, okay, I don't care how it's going to work, but I'm still going to work on it. I mean, my first videos, I think I started recording videos like a decade ago,
wow,
but
amazing.
I wasn't consistent back then. I tried, I started up, I did a challenge, I got my videos out there, and then I stopped again. And that's my consistency was starting up, stuffing again. That's so it just didn't click. Just didn't feel like the way it should, and it was due to friends coming over from the US, musicians, and me helping them record the whole thing on video and taking pictures and discussing video with them that changed the whole thing. And so 3, 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, no, 4.5 years ago, time goes fast. I actually changed so I made the decision a year prior to it. But at the beginning of 2018, I said, okay, February 2018, I said, okay, I'm just going to go do it. And ever since, I've started doing all these live videos. I recorded everywhere where I went. I made all these videos. I was at the police station. Okay, so I recorded myself at the police station. Oh, someone had broken into my car. Why I went to the police station. Okay, let's put that on there too. All that stuff. Oh, I'm stuck at the airport. Okay, let's record that too. And just
Yeah.
to create like sort of like a story, and then it evolved in more and more and more and more. So then I got better and better at it, and now, you know, I can't imagine a day without me recording myself or at least taking a picture. So by the time I don't do it, you can bet something is off. So, but
That's
it's funny because I've I've seen you first in the Insider Readers group. So that's the weekly group Evan Carmichael does
Yeah.
for people who have bought the book Built to Serve. And of course, just
Mhm.
recently you joined Movement Makers, and you are someone who's always around. And either you ask questions, or because people are so used to you asking questions, they ask you the questions. And that's consistency for me.
Oh, oh, thank you. You know what? That's, when I start doing that is because I start getting in love with that activity. Because at the beginning, I tend to be very shy at the beginning until I kind of like know where I am. No, I kind of feel like, become more like the spectator type of person.
Mm-hmm.
Not really outgoing or not really, but once I realize that that's a place where I can feel like safe and free and all that. And then, I start kind of like showing up a little bit more. And I my relationships tend to be very long because like because once I invest time and effort in something, it just the ball start rolling. So the personal development process for me has been like that. I came out of nothing, like honestly, like I the first time I had contact with personal development was through Alex, which is the instructor of TBS, and he started talking about things that it made so much sense to me at that time, and I was like, okay, so where is he getting those ideas? Like, of course, he's like lots of what he says is his own, but he would cite people like, Brenda Brown says this, or Evan Carmichael says that, or Tony Robbins. So I started, oh, who's these people? I've never listened to them at all. And because I was so much embedded in what is my professional development and my family, right? And again, I go very deep into the relationship. So I kind of like was so embedded in that I was not really being exposed to other things. So once I started to listen to that, it started a process. And that was like almost 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago, a little bit even more. And, I started developing that side of me. Okay, so what is this? What is this all about? How this affects me or how this impacts me? And then I move into something else. Okay, how can I impact someone else? Can I share something of what I'm learning because it has been so good to me that maybe for someone else will be beneficial as well. And that kind of gives me the courage to go on live like right now, because maybe for someone I can be as inspiring as all these people that I start watching are. And the idea that you impact the life of people when it's meant to be, like there's no point that I mean, we I would say, or at least I'm not trying to be Tony Robbins or nothing like that. No, I'm just sharing what my experiences are, and to people that can relate to those, and maybe seeing what I've lived, something that they can use and save them some time, some effort, some money. Talking about my professional life, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I share those experiences, and I saw this personal development thing as something that totally complements and will benefit my professional life and my clients. So I became consistent in that, in reading, in listening, in consuming valuable things. But behind that consistency was the discipline of I want to become better. I want to become a better person than what I am, and I'm going to remain disciplined to stop watching things that does not really benefit me, or stop hanging out with people that may not beneficial to my growth. So the discipline is always the backbone for me. The consistency is something that comes as a byproduct, and it depends on the light under what I see it. It's good or bad. Consistency can be bad if you remain in a flat line. terrible to be consistent with a flat line. It will kill me. I either have to go up or down like your friend. When I don't like it anymore, I'll just drop it, I'll just drop it as long as I'm not invested. And that's my breaking point, and that's my danger. Because I tend to be passionate about things, sometimes it's difficult for me to say when I need to stop. And I have to be careful with that, because you want to do the things, you want to be disciplined at the things that serve you, that are in your best interest. Not in everything, because otherwise you will end up wore out. You will end up with no strength to do anything else. You cannot cover all the spectrum of things in life. I think that you need to focus on specific things, right?
But what I like in your story is it sounds like you start with something, and then when you think, okay, it's time, you add another thing, and then when you can, when more can be done, you add a little more. So it seems like you're also very consistent in what you're putting on your plate, what you can actually handle. I'm like one of those people who's like, oh, this is interesting, that's interesting, oh, that's cool too. And then I start doing a whole lot at the same time, and of course that won't work. So, so I might start something and totally say I'm going to work on it, but in essence not finish it, but maybe pick it up at a later date of time. So it's so I had to learn, like, okay, I may want to do 20 things at a time, but that's not going to work. But I also know, and that's due to people like, for instance, Brendon Burchard. I've listened to him for about 9 years now.
Oh, me too. I've listened for a long time.
Yeah, and I know him from the marketing stuff, actually. So when he started talking about the OVO, opt-in value offer, of course I knew what he was talking about. And a lot of things he says, and by the way, the same is the same for Evan Carmichael. Those things are not necessarily new to me, and they say them over and over again. But something needs to be put in place first, and then the next thing can pile upon it, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. So I know what I need to do, but between knowing what I need to do and having the discipline to do it and being able to do so, as in I can actually handle it mentally, and I'm there, that's a whole different ballgame. But I do know that by listening to them, every month, or in Brandon's case, nowadays it's every week. And I don't listen to him every week. I've got my favorite coaches, and when he's on, of course, I'll listen, and especially when it comes to marketing, I'll be there. Something strange needs to happen, unless otherwise I'll be there. And the same applies to Evan. But I did come to understand, like, okay, I need to be able to first cover this one thing, and then when I'm good at it, then I can add something on top of it. And that's probably where the discipline and the commitment comes into play, because once I know I can master it, or even if I do not know if I can master it, but when I know it's important and I feel like it's doable, and especially if I know there's support out there backing me up, then I'll go do it. By going to Evan's gaming channel like weekly, but also hearing him weekly talk on Insider Readers, it's like there's support in the background, and and because he's very committed to all of us, seeing us succeed, it's way easier to get things going. So it's not like I haven't heard about the whole I call it enchilada, but you know what I mean. The whole things when it comes to all the stuff that we need to do, when it comes to having that page out there, having your lead magnet out there, the one thing that you offer to the people, an ongoing course. I know all that stuff, but it doesn't mean that I might start it up, I might get it out there, but it doesn't mean that I will go on straight away. And
Mm-hmm.
now I've
Yeah.
actually found a modus, and that's largely because Evan actually is the one who said, from September on, I'm going to do those challenges. So he started doing those challenges every month. And
Okay.
that I could do, doing 3 collaborations with people, getting my own video out there, and getting a handout. That I could do. That I
Yeah.
understood. And then it was
Yeah.
like, okay, so getting that opt-in page, yeah, I know what I need to do. I've done it dozens of times. Didn't
Yeah.
necessarily work, but I did it. The one thing I haven't done still yet is being consistent when it comes to weekly newsletters. So, and that's what I mean.
Okay, so yes, today is the day
For
I go
now,
with the
I've
flow
been
because
working,
normally
okay,
my
let's
life is
get
so
YouTube
scheduled. I
going,
have to,
the great
to
Fridays, the
have,
great
I have to
thumbnails,
plan
but
pretty
I
much
know I need to do
everything,
more.
and it
So,
works
am I
well because
disciplined
otherwise
enough to do
my
it?
life
I
would
don't
be
know.
very
I guess not at this
will be
moment.
chaos, right?
Yeah,
And
but
even
I
sometimes,
am
despite
disciplined
I
enough
try to
to
plan,
do
it's
what
chaos.
I
So
can
today,
do and
Fridays
what
are
I'm
my
capable
favorite
of
days.
doing.
Fridays and Mondays are
And
my
like I
favorite
said,
days.
when I know that there's
Mondays
support,
because it's the
and
start,
that's
a
what
new
I love
start,
about the whole
and
movement maker
it's always
family,
exciting.
is
And
that we are
Fridays
there to
because
support
it's
one
kind of
another. And
like the day
even
I
those
take
who
it
leave the
easy.
movement
I
maker
stay with the
family, we
kids in the
know them,
park. I let
and
them play
they're
as
in
long
our
as they
heart,
want,
and we still
and
will
I
support
just,
them.
yeah, go
And
with the
that's,
flow. So you said,
I've
let's
been
do
in a lot of
the live, and I said, okay,
masterminds
yes, no
in
problem.
over
I'm
the
here for
last
you.
decade,
So
and
yeah. And I don't
none
know
of
how it
them
works
were
for
the
you,
same
but every
like
time that
the whole
since
movement
I
maker
am in movement
family,
makers, which is going
which
to be a
Evan
little bit
has
longer than a
provided
month,
for us.
whenever there is
And
yes,
that's such
one
a
of these
different, and that's
topics
such a
is
different ball game.
proposed,
So I can be consistent
I
when I
do a
know
little bit of
there's a
research.
backup, there's
I check
support. So
a
I
little bit
guess
the person that I'm going
for
to
me,
talk to. I want to
the
know,
discipline
what
is a
excites
result of
the
knowing
person, the
there's
interest,
someone, and
and
if I'm committed,
I like to do a little bit of research.
it's
With
not respectful
consistency, it
not
has not
to be
been
the
kind of like
one
my,
to
I was
not
not as
show up.
excited
I mean,
as I
if I
was with
say I'm in,
courage
I'm in,
or with
and
discipline.
then I'll show up,
Okay.
and then I'll do it.
The way I see
And
consistency
if they keep on going,
has always
It's
been
because
like
that
a
probably
launching
what you
pad
said,
for
I am
something else.
reliable. I want to,
It's,
that people know that they can
consistency,
have,
it's not good or bad
that I'm
for
here
me.
for them.
It depends on the
So,
context.
of course, yeah, it's
So
what you're saying is
normally,
consistent. What
if
your
I am
behavior is
talking
consistent with
about
your values. You
consistency
see
in good terms,
the
I would say
consistency,
consistency
your
with
acts,
your
if
between
Evan
your
tells you
acts
do this, do
and
that,
your
out of
values is
respect
important,
for him, and
because
you will
it's if
go and
you're
do
not
it,
in
and
agreement, if
because
you're not
you
acting
are
in
a
agreement with your
reliable person.
values,
So
then you're gonna
that's a
live
good
in stress,
consistency, the
and
consistency
it's gonna
between
cause
your
sadness.
acts and your
And
values,
that's something that
that brings
Tony
joy, and
Robbins
that
talks
brings
about, and also Evan.
a self
How
fulfillment,
do you
and that's
know,
beautiful.
or
And
why,
that's
or
beautiful.
how can
So
you
consistency, yeah, it can be
identify
something
why you are
good,
not happy?
definitely.
Most of the
Where,
time is
at
because you're
least the
not
way I
living
see it,
in agreement with
depending
your
on
values.
what
You're
type
not
of
consistent
consistency
with
are we
your
talking,
values,
can
right?
definitely be
Whatever
something
values you
good.
have.
In,
So
the
that
example
in
you're
that
giving.
sense, consistency is
Yeah, so
interesting, is
it is,
important.
I don't know, like,
Consistency of behavior.
Lexi,
For
you
me, it's
mentioned to me
important
before
because
that you needed to do something like, like to
this is
be
my
around
free
people who
day.
is
I can keep
consistent
talking to you,
in
but
the
I don't want
way,
to, they relate
throw
to
you
me,
out of your
right?
schedule. So
It's very
whatever you
stressing
tell
for
me,
me when I'm
yeah, it's
around
okay.
people
Like,
who
if you
all the
want to
time is
continue or if you want to stop, I'm totally
moody,
okay with
and
that.
I don't
What
really
I
know
want you
how
is to
to.
feel
Uh,
good about,
they are
your
unpredictable, and I
day,
don't know
what you've achieved
what's gonna
today,
be
and
that
what
day
we
with
are
that
doing.
person. I don't
For
like that,
me, talking to you is something that
because
I wanted to do for a
I'm
long time,
normally
because you
I
are one of
invest a
the
lot in my
probably
relationships with
someone who
friends,
welcomed me
and
from the beginning when
and when I
I
find
joined
that kind of behavior,
movement
it causes me to
makers, and
think,
even
okay, did I did
before with the
something
Readers
wrong?
Club, I
What's
just
going
went
on?
there
I
and I
mean,
was
bad days,
silent
we
for
all
the
have it, and that's perfectly
probably the
fine.
3 or 4 I think I have a high
Conversations,
tolerance
I was
for
silent,
people
just
having bad days.
listening to
I am
what people were
tolerant,
saying,
I
and
think.
when I
But
had to
when
talk,
when I finally,
that
gathered the courage,
there's no
my face was like
consistency
burning
in
in
how
front of
that
people. And
person
you were supportive, and
behaves
I
with me.
remember that.
Then
I
I
remember
start
you and
creating this
Maria. I
feeling of,
remember maybe it's better for
San
me
and all
to
that.
move
So
away.
yeah, there is a
Okay,
beauty, and
so
that's
that's
something that I
good
really value:
on movement
consistency in
makers,
behavior. I
and
want to know that if I'm in a
so
room
you tell
of
me,
300
you
people,
are
I
finding
will
time, you
find
can
the eyes
keep
of that
going or
person, and I
whatever,
can go to that
whatever
person,
you
and
feel.
well, then in a
that
few
person will
minutes,
be
I want to
warm, and
switch
that person
to
will be
Evan, but
friendly, and I
Evan
will
is
be
still
safe with
gaming,
that person.
so
So
he
that's when
will
I
survive.
can really make a connection. I can
It's
really,
not like he's
we can
only
remain
one
friends,
day a
or
week.
in a
So
relationship or
he told me
whatever.
yesterday, and it was
But
kind of funny because
that's
actually
how
linked
the
it
positive
yesterday when
light
I had a
for
question.
consistency.
He said, well, will you
now,
be able to go
in regards
to
of
my
consistency of
gaming channel? So
results,
he knows
for
I'm
me,
going
as I
to
said,
show
is a
up
launching pad.
eventually.
Because sometimes,
I can make it, and that's
consistency
the way it
depends
is.
on exterior,
But then
on
I'll even
exterior
go in
facts.
Discord.
So you can be thrown out of
for the people who don't
consistency
know that,
behavior sometimes.
Evan
And that
Discord
happens.
is the
We are
next
not
best
robots.
thing
We are
or
not
the next
supposed
thing
to
out there
produce
that's
the
going
exact
to be
same
great.
consistent
So
results.
he wanted
And
us all to
I
go
think
to
that we
Discord.
should not,
So
because
here on
we should
Discord,
either go
that's
for
Evan.
something
cool.
better,
It's
or
cool.
we should
And
realize
I
that
like
that's
that
not for
about
us,
this group.
and then we're gonna
It
stop
challenges us. It takes us
producing
out of
consistent
our
results.
comfort zone.
Like,
For me,
when you are
getting
when
into
you are
Discord
at
at the
school,
beginning was a
and
headache.
if you are
Literally,
consistent
because
with
I
your
didn't
grades,
really,
even if they are
A
it's
plus, A
busy,
plus. It's kind of
when
like I feel
something is too
I'm stuck
busy
in this
visually, I
consistency.
kind of like get
So especially
not
for people who's
not
creative,
consistency. I find
it's difficult for me to get into something that is too
because
busy.
you're always trying to
So
experiment
Discord was
something new,
difficult for
and
me
that
to
will take you out of
understand.
consistency.
And they have so many
in
things
that in those
embedded.
terms,
But now
consistency
I'm
is like
enjoying it.
depends.
So
I like it
learn
when
something
it's a
new,
byproduct,
and
I think consistency is good when it's a byproduct of discipline.
it makes me feel good about
It's
myself.
normal to
Being
become
able to at
consistent in
least
some
now
things,
understand how it works.
but when you're
And
disciplined,
something cool
you
that
go
happens
beyond
is
that
that
consistency.
my kid the
go
other day saw
towards,
me on Discord,
achieving
and she said,
something
"Wow, mommy, you
bigger.
have Discord?" And I
So
was like,
for me,
"Yes." I was like, "Wow, and what did
consistency,
you do?
it's
Do
not
you
something
you
that
have gaming
that's
partners?"
not
I was
my
like,
battle, because
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm
I
a
don't.
constant
But
person,
that keeps
which is
us
different.
relevant,
And
that
I
doing these
check those
things
both
keep us
concepts,
relevant and
consistency
inform about what's
versus
what's going
constant.
on. So
And I
that's
rather much
nice.
the concept
Something I
of
want to
constant.
say
And
about
then I think that
movement makers,
someone
when
constant
when I
with my
behavior,
enrolled,
I knew
with my
by the time I
with my
participated in the
affections,
challenge, I knew
with
that
my
I wanted
activities,
to
with my
become
passions,
part of
I
it.
tend to be
So
constant.
for me, it was very, it was a decision that was already
That's
taken.
how would I
But the
describe
the idea was presented
it's
to me
good,
some
depends
time
on
ago,
like
probably
or
around September last
context.
year. At that time,
much rather
it was not my time.
Concept of
I was like, no, this is
constancy.
not a good time for me.
Now
I
your
knew that it
turn.
was not going to be
Okay.
something I
Well,
would
you've
take
given me a
advantage of,
lot to think
because I was
about.
not in the right place.
So,
I was going through many stuff, and I
let's
knew
just
that it
start
was
with
not for me
behavior.
to
It was
take
not the first
something
thing you
else.
mentioned, but
So it's not, this is how I
people
see
and
it.
consistent
It is
behavior.
not
Well,
mandatory to put the
I
world
guess I
over
like
you.
it when people are
You
predictable,
you
as
have to, in regards of
that I
what you
know
said,
what I can
it
expect
seems like
from
you
them.
take, you go step by step.
But
Yes,
for
and
me, it's
seeing
more
there,
important, and I
I see
rely
that
on
need,
them.
because although I can
So do they
I
have my
can
back
get
when
very
I need
excited
it?
about things as you, I
Um,
know
I associate
that
those two
I have
concepts,
limited
reliance
time, like
and
my
yes.
days have
yeah,
limited
so
number of
someone could
hours.
be,
So I cannot do it all.
I always
And I
say
have
that some
learned
people
to
are as
accept that,
flexible as a steel door.
not as a limitation,
They're not
but
flexible at all.
something that
But when you
encourages
can
me
expect.
to do the things that I really like and love.
Is that someone I
And
want to be around
the
with?
rest of
Well,
the
it
things, I
depends
just put them
on the kind
aside.
of
So if I
relationship,
don't see the real,
what one means
the
to
real
the
value
other
in it, I
person.
try not to get involved,
But
because I know that
at
I
times
don't have
it
that
can
much
also
time, and
mean
I
that
need to dedicate time to my children
certain
and
things
to
never
my
will be done.
firm
So when you
and
need
to my
someone to
activities,
catch
my
you,
dancing
that they
and all
won't
that. And
be
those are
able to do
core
it
things in
because
my life.
it's not in their
So
system.
when I'm letting something else
So
come in, it has to be something really valuable. And it's
consistency,
not
behavior
back then, when
wise,
I was
it's
first presented
an
with that
interesting concept. I have to
possibility to
say,
become
it's
a part of
totally
the group,
unexpected.
I didn't take it, and it was fine with me. I knew that it was not my time. And this is something like a little bit of message
how
for
does
some
it
people.
look for you?
For people,
Like,
sometimes you feel
in a
very
real life,
pressure
in your
and from
life.
what I hear
How do you
from you, right?
experience?
You want to do more. You want to
It
do
is something
everything.
that
You want to
affects you
take up so
when people
much,
is
and
not consistent
perfect
with
you need to
with
keep
their
encouraged
relation,
with
with
the
way they
beautiful.
interact with
But
you. I'm not meaning
step by
about the
step
length of time.
I mean,
Process
I'm
allows
more
you
in the
to
sense that
take
what you said, only the
when
things
you
that you
rely
need
onto
and
someone.
want, and
There's some people who
improve
are
or
very,
increase the
it
amount
doesn't work
gradually.
if the person
Once
it's
they
not
are,
what I
because
expected
at
or
the
does
end of
not
the day,
act as
the
I
worst thing
expected.
that we
I
can
just,
do is
walk
take
away,
up on
and it
things
doesn't
and it has
affect you.
happened to me.
For me, it does
That
affect me.
since you
So
cannot,
because I get really involved
in
you feel
invested
bad about
in
yourself,
relationships, and you start
so
questioning your value,
and
and
it's
that's
because I'm
unacceptable. You see,
That's
so
unacceptable.
it does affect me.
We should
That's
not
why I kind of
never
like avoiding
allow
people
ourselves to
around
do
people
that.
who's not
So
consistent in their
there is
behavior.
a point when we need to
Well,
take
first
it
of all,
easy
I'm
and
afraid
think
I'm
we
not
are
one of those people
humans.
who is
We have
consistent
flaws.
in their
We
behavior.
sometimes we make
I can
mistakes.
be very
This is not the time
high
for me
on
to do it
adrenaline
all,
at times.
but that doesn't mean that I
And
may
for
not be able to do it in the
people
future
who
if
are
it's
not used
something
to
that
it,
really feels good.
I can be a
But
bit
not
much to
reason to
handle
feel
at
bad
times when
about
I'm
not
high
doing
on
everything
adrenaline.
because we are
So
bombarded, right?
usually
You
I
have to
try
do
to manage
this, that,
myself,
so
but I
many things,
also
that you're
I
supposed to do.
also know when it
Well,
happens.
you don't really
So
have
when
to do what
I
is good for you,
realize
do what works
that's
for
about
you,
to
what
happen, I
serves you.
try to
So
take
that's kind of like
measures
what I
so
always
other
try to
people
remember, because
are
yes,
not bothered
like
by
you, I tend
my
to get excited about things,
being high in
and it
adrenaline.
had happened to me that
So
I take up on too many things.
I'm
And the worst
literally
thing for me is feeling that I'm not
when
delivering.
you look at
Then I
my
really get stressed,
sign,
and then I really
it's
get,
Pisces,
bad,
and I'm one
and
of
I
those
start,
people. I'm
having
either
all
there or I'm there.
these
So it's a
negative
little bit of both. So
feelings.
I am
So I
consistent when it
have to be
comes
careful
to
on that,
when
on what
people
I
can
take up
rely
on
on me, people
me.
can depend on me.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
trying
just a
to
cute
take
girl,
it
But I
I
lightly
cannot
also
do
and
know
everything.
that certain
What is
situations,
it?
I'd rather stay away from
I
certain
learned to take things
situations.
one
So
day at a time. I've got a
I'm
limited
good at
amount of
doing one-on-one
energy
with
with
people.
people. I sleep a
I
lot.
am
When I go to
when
physical
I
therapy,
notice
where
where
I go twice
you
a
can
week,
rely on me. If
including
you need my
today,
help, you can rely on me.
I usually
But
sleep
don't
straight after.
make me part
So
of a group
I
just for the sake
have
of being
to
part of a group,
look at
like a
weeks of
birthday party or anything.
Mhm.
You know, just let me go.
when it's telling me that the
Don't let me
battery
be
is
there.
dying.
So
So
I
know
also
that
have one
I have
very annoying
to.
habit.
No,
And that's
usually
I'm
I
always
look at
late
what am
because
I
I'm
going to
still
do? Where
focused
will
on
I
what it is
be?
I'm
And
doing.
how can I make
So I'm
the
very
most of
consistent with being
everything
late.
so that
And I
the
know the
energy is
people
well divided, but I
you
also know that
have
at some
zero
point certain
tolerance
things
for
I
it.
cannot do.
So when it
So
comes to people with zero
when it comes
tolerance,
to the
I'll
physical
probably be
therapist,
in
it has
time.
happened
More than
but
once,
that's
it's
especially in
not
the
because I
beginning
don't want
that
to be
I
in
couldn't
time.
make
It's
it.
literally
At
because
some point, I woke up and I was like, "Oh my God, I
I'm
should have been
trying to
there right
finish
now."
something first. So I
And
put
that's
all my energy in
why they
something. I
know
get
I'm
this
consistently
hyper
focused,
focus, but I'm not
and
always
it's
disciplined with
um,
going there actually. I tend to always be
but they
later
do
than
know that
expected.
if
And I
I
know
don't
it's
go
bad
there, there's
behavior, by the way.
probably a reason
And by the
because I
time
couldn't
I'm on
sleep or
time,
anything.
people are like,
Something has
"Whoa,
happened,
there's something wrong
which
with
has
her
been,
because she's on time."
especially
Right now.
when a lot of
Um,
things happen.
but having said so, I'm also
My
consistent
sleeping
when it
pattern
comes
is
to
a little
telling
bit
people, listen,
off, as you may have
I
noticed.
know I said it was
But
going to be
usually
here
I'm
this time.
awake during
I'm
the
not
night,
going to
like
be able
right
to
now.
make it.
It's
So
1:30 in
let
the
me know
night,
what it is
and
you
I'm
expect
awake.
from me and
What
that
you want
means
me
that
to do?
I'm probably not going to
So
be sleeping
it's only
before
when
4,
I don't
sometimes even 5 in the
alert
morning.
people
And
that I
sometimes
tell
it's
them
even
if
like
I don't
6
show
or
up
7
and I
in the
don't
morning.
tell you
It
in
just
advance
depends.
that I'm not going to show up or I'm going
That
to be
means
late,
that my
then you need to
schedule
call
when I
me
get
because
up
then something
usually
is wrong.
shifts
And
to
people know
somewhere
that.
between
So
1 and 3 in the
to
afternoon.
a degree, I'm
I'm very
consistent.
consistent when it
As
comes to that because I've always been a
in my
night owl my
inconsistency.
entire life. My day has
That
more
way.
than 24 hours in
Exactly.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a type of
That's
consistency.
sort of how
I
It's a
guess
type.
and
I'm
apparently
always
that's
reliable when it
also
comes
the
to people
result of
needing me.
having
When
worked
people need me, I'm
day,
there.
evening, and night shift. So
And
that
it
Beautiful.
doesn't matter what
changes
time
your
of day it is,
biorhythm.
I'm there.
But when it's
Mm.
quiet,
That's when
it
I
has to
usually
be
do
really
most of the
weird.
work. And when
If
it's quiet,
for
that's
me not to be
basically
there,
late
Yeah.
at night.
something has to
Or
go
late in the
completely
evening in the
haywire.
night. So that's when I start to do
Um,
my stuff.
too much stress.
But when it
Those are
gets
the moments that
disrupted,
I'm not reliable, and
that's
that's why it's
usually
so hard
when
for me
I can
to
sleep.
deal with people who
Then
are
everything that I
consistent in
was
their
supposed to
behavior,
start in the
but are
afternoon
not
won't work.
reliable, as in
And that's
the
something
moment
I've
that I
learned to
need them.
accept, and I've also
So
explained it to other
when
people. Like,
things are not normal,
sometimes
basically,
things do go haywire, and I
they
just don't
cannot
have the energy.
deal with
That's
that.
the way it is. That's the way my
Mhm.
body functions.
Mhm.
But if
And
I'm mutual all of a sudden,
I can't help
because
it.
there's been some incident
And
or
I
something
want
else,
to.
and
For my clients, I'll
I
make
cannot
the
always rely
exception,
on the other
especially the ones
people
who need me,
because
they
they'll
are
still
in their
be
routine.
around.
They
They are
still call
stuck in
me,
that
and
routine,
I might be a
and
little
they
bit distracted,
cannot
but I still be around.
they
Even when I'm on
cannot go
holiday,
away
I'm
from that
usually
routine.
around.
You
That's
know,
what I
for
have
them
in
to
mind.
take their calls,
And the
because I
flexibility in
know
their
they
minds,
need it. It's
and
just is not
might be
there.
like
And I
a
cannot
little
even
short
blame them
confusion,
because
but
I
I
know
still will
it's
be
the way
around,
they
so
are.
they know they can
That's
depend
correct.
on me
Yeah,
when it's
that's
needed.
correct.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
yeah, it's,
It's
you
not
know, I
like
think that
the reason
humans, we are
why
very,
they
and it's Angela
need
there.
me is
Humans are
just go
humans.
to this field
I am
because
there.
I decide that
We
I want to go
humans,
on
we
a
humans
holiday.
are very complex.
So,
That's why there are no
and
definite
so
answers
that's
to anything,
when it comes
basically.
to
There are
discipline and
concepts that apply to
consistency.
either one
For
situation
me,
or another one, and they can
the
change in time.
motivation to do it
So,
is
and what
there.
I see from what you're
It's just
saying
not
is
always
that, as
optional, and that's
I think I am,
what
you
I
are
love
constant in
when
certain
you
things,
said
not
we can
necessarily
take
consistent.
all of it.
Consistent, I say it more like in terms
We
of
can take it all.
results, same results all the time.
Can take
And
it all
since
on.
like I
We
can
can't
tell
do
that you are a
everything at
very
the same
creative
time
person, of course, it's
straight
going to
away.
be a
We
little
need
bit
to
difficult
learn
for
to
you
do
to
it
be always
gradually.
consistent. So I think there
When
are
we
some
do it
things
and
that
we
are very
decide, like, okay,
important to
this
be
seems like a
consistent
good
with,
plan, or
as I
this
said
doesn't
that.
seem like a
And
good
it's
plan.
consistent
Okay, and
is
sometimes,
beautiful when it
we can
comes
just
as a
add
byproduct of
little things,
discipline,
small things,
because
and
it helps you
well, it
achieve
works out
bigger
or it
things.
doesn't
And
work out.
you know,
If it doesn't
that's
work out,
how I
I'm
see
flat. But
consistency.
when it comes
But
to, I don't
when
know,
there's
yes,
nothing behind that
and quite
consistency,
honestly,
like
I
something bigger,
only knew that I
sometimes it's
needed
difficult to remain
join
consistent.
movement
Like
makers
I'm gonna
because
wake up
Evan
5
was the only
a.m.
one I
every
knew who
morning
was a
just
YouTube
because I'm
expert. So
consistent.
when I
It
saw him
doesn't always
at
work like that.
Brandenburg,
You know, you have to have
I was like, I need to know
something
more.
that pushes you
He knows
beyond
about YouTube.
that.
I
And
want to
normally
do
for
something
me,
with
that's
YouTube.
commitment.
So that's
Commitment is
why
something that
I decided
makes
to
me a
join
constant person
movement makers.
and
But again,
allows me to
I
remain
think I've really started growing as a result of
consistent with some things,
the
but more
strategies
than
he has
consistent,
given
to
us,
remain
basically.
committed
And I
to
have,
for a long
of
time
course,
with
I know a lot of things
things.
already, so that
I'm gonna
makes
give
it
you
a
an
little
example. For example,
easier for
dancing.
me. So I'm a little more
I
advanced
love
compared to
dancing.
the others.
It's
But
a
it doesn't
reason by
really mean
itself,
that I'm
right?
necessarily
So I kept dancing
better as in
during
having
COVID.
better
I kept
results
dancing, you know,
than
at
other
home
people.
right now.
I'm
I
better
cannot
at
go
that.
much
I know what to
outside
do,
as much. I
but
kept
it doesn't
dancing. I kept
necessarily
dancing
provide me with
because
better
I
results.
am
But
committed to that
well,
activity.
that's something we keep
So
working
I
on
may not
too,
be as
because
consistent as I used to go, like
if I'm putting all my
every
time
Thursday, because
and effort in it,
consistency
then I
depends
might as well
sometimes
do the right thing.
in things outside
Yes,
you.
like
For
yeah,
example,
and
in
you
your
have to
case would
know,
be
like kind of like
you're doing
that's
something
a
else
process that
maybe, and
I'm
that
going
throws
through,
you out of
knowing
schedule. So,
what
you know,
from
it's something
all what is
external. Maybe,
discussed
I don't
there
know, but from what you're saying, but
for my firm to
you
grow.
know,
Me
so
personally,
I
and that's a
unfortunately I
big
cannot
part
be
of
as
me being part
consistent
of
as I
movement
used to
makers
be
because I
attending my
see
classes.
they're like a great
Probably
opportunity for
producing
me to
those
grow as a
consistent
person.
results, as
But
improving my
also, I
moves.
keep in
But
mind that still
I
commit
needed to the
or my goal
activity,
is
so
to
I'm
grow
constantly, you
or to
know,
learn
trying
things that
to
can help
get better
grow
in
my
my
firm.
so
And
consistency,
I
it's
have to
fine
be
depending
able
on
to
what are we
pick and
talking
choose
about,
what's gonna work for in those terms.
you know,
And the thing is, yes,
it's that it
we
depends on
we can
what's the
always
final
you know take
product
up
of
lots
that
of things. You know,
consistency.
we can try to do
Are you
lots of
using
things,
that
but
consistency
how
to
deep
reach
are we
something
able to go
bigger,
into
or
those
just
things?
because you want
For
to
me,
be
it's not about doing thousand things.
produce
It's
a
how
similar
deep you
result?
can go
It's not
with
Well,
always as
something.
for one thing,
and
I
it
don't
applies
think
to everything pretty much
I
I
could do a
do in
similar
my
result.
life. Even when
I
I'm
mean, it's
listening to
something I would
someone
like to,
like
and I would like to
Brendan
see it
Burchard,
improve, but
when I
I
you know
don't
discovered
always,
him, literally I exhausted
I'm not always capable of
every
influencing those
chapter of
results.
his
What I
podcast.
can do is
I attended his conference. I kind
constantly
of like
improve.
I
So
really like
work on
to
it
deep,
consistently
you
to
know,
make it better.
go deep
If
into and
other
then
people,
Tony Robbins, same thing, listening to him
consider,
and really
well,
absorbing as
when
much
it
as
comes to
possible,
results,
and
let's take
time
for
like
instance the
that.
whole
And
YouTube
then when I
thing.
started doing
I
meditation,
think a very
I
good
was in a
example.
place that I would
I'm
not
consistent
move.
when
I
it
was
comes to
consistent in
posting.
not being
I
able
won't
to
say
produce
I
anything out of
post
it.
every
I
day,
was
but I post
consistent,
nearly every
in
day.
being seated, like,
Sometimes
because I was
I
consistent. I would
do
go
a
like
few
every
posts in
morning,
one day, and
like,
then a couple of days
and I
I
was like
don't.
blank. It
But
was my moment to think of
normally
all the
there
things
are
I
a couple
should.
of videos out
So
there per
meditation
week. I
became,
think
something, a
somewhere
painful
around three
practice,
or four.
because I didn't understand what
I
was,
am
to meditate.
consistent
And so
when
I
it
started
comes
listening
to
in my head
improving
somewhat that can
myself. So
guide me.
I've been
And it
working
has
on the
been like
thumbnails, I've been
And I've
working
several
seen
on
months of
that.
just
titles,
listening
I've been
on,
working,
so many
well,
like teachings
in a little
about
bit.
what it's
Evan
around
and
meditation,
Carmichael
why,
will go live.
why
For those who do
why
not
it
know
is
that,
important, how it benefits us,
Carmichael
blah,
is
blah,
a
blah, and
YouTube
all those kind of
expert,
things, and
and
trying to
we are in
internalize it.
movement makers, and
So
Evan
it's
Carmichael
not
is the one
necessarily,
who's
my
leading
point
movement
with
makers.
it's not necessary
So
us
he
to
gives
take
us
lots
an
of things.
opportunity to
It's
ask
better to choose
stuff.
what really serves
And
us
what I
and
do
go
know
deep
is
on those
if
ones.
I
You know?
ask him
And then, you know, time
and I
management
would
and all
not
that,
follow
it's
up on
another
it,
whole story. And that's
not
another whole
respectful.
story. And,
Also,
allocate
I
time
am
for
talk about time management
in
some other
he
time.
tells me something,
And
but
then
my
I'll
battery is
act on it.
almost dead.
As for
And
the
having said
results,
so,
I cannot
let's
influence
finish
how
up
many
with
people are actually
Definitely.
watching my channel
that
on YouTube
choosing
or
the
watching the
right
video.
battle
I can
for
be
the right
consistent as
reason,
in
and
I put it
sometimes
out
we
there
might
on
pick the wrong
Instagram,
battle,
I tag a number
still
of
for the right
people,
reason,
but I cannot
and then when
influence
we
their
figure out
schedule and I
it's
cannot
not for us,
influence how many
we
people
might
are
shift
going to
to
see
the
it.
next one.
So I
Still
can be
is in line with
consistent
what we
in
want
my
to do for the
actions,
right reasons,
but I
staying
cannot be
consistent in
consistent
working
in the
on
outcome.
achieving
That
the
But
goes
I
end
can
beyond
goal.
you.
try
And my
You know,
best
to do it.
it's like you said, we have
but what
a certain
what
amount
you are
of energy,
describing,
we have a certain
the way I
amount
see
of
it is discipline.
time we can spend on
You are disciplined.
and
You are disciplined
let's
in
do
doing
what we can
something
actually,
that has a strong
what
motivation.
we can work on.
And discipline is
So that's
beautiful.
the
And
part that we
that's
enjoy.
something that I really
Let's do what
think
we
it's
love,
important to have in
right?
your
Let's
life.
do what we
Discipline.
love.
I thought it was really sweet of you that you were like, oh, but it's after midnight. Isn't that too late for you? So thank you.
I know, but I am. That's something I'm always trying to prove to go to bed earlier. But sometimes, when it's worth it, it's okay. It's okay to. And sometimes I'm doing stuff, especially during week. I have to take care of. I try to leave everything ready for next day. So sometimes I have to go to sleep even though I don't want, but I have to go to sleep a little bit late. I need to cook for my kids. That's a commitment I've made with myself to give them healthy food. So, and the only time I have sometimes is late at night. So, and and when I feel like, okay, I need like good company, I check who's going live from movement makers. And I just start watching. So
Cool.
it's
Well,
lovely.
thank you so much. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to say buenas noches.
Buenas noches. Que descanses, que tengas lindos sueños.
And we'll talk soon again.
Definitely. It was lovely to talk to you, Lady Lexi.